What is up? GoodMicWork commentaries back at you with episode 474. I am your host, Greg Morgan. This is going to be just kind of a fun, laid-back, casual, lighthearted type of commentary this week. I am only going to briefly run down this past week's Monday Night Raw and Smackdown Live, the December 18th and 19th, 2017 editions of those shows. Going to touch on the major angles and all of the big things that we saw take place on those shows, and that's pretty much it. I'll get into detail on the announcement of the Women's Royal Rumble and my opinions on all of that stuff, whom we might see as surprise entrants and whatnot. Also, the devastating injury that Dean Ambrose suffered to his elbow. He's going to be out of action for a while. I'll touch on that. Also, the latest potential storyline plans for Shane McMahon and Daniel Bryan, the Universal title match at the Royal Rumble, and anything else major going on the two major brands. In addition to that, there is some other wrestling news I will touch on as well. I will get into the unfortunate death of Tom Zink, the latest on Just Incredible and Vince McMahon's new business venture, Alpha Entertainment, along with a few other tidbits here or there at the end of the commentary, so stay tuned for that. The first thing I want to say, of course, is that I want to wish each and every one of you a very happy and safe holiday season. This will be my last regular commentary until the Christmas holidays, so this is really my last chance to tell all of you thank you for another awesome year here on the GoodMicWork channel. We did a lot this year. The channel really started to evolve, especially at the end, now with the addition of the live streams and things like that. The support has been amazing, and this year has been every bit as fun as previous years, and I just want to thank all of you for being with me for yet another year. And 2018 will mark my 8th year doing commentary, so looking forward to a really fun 2018. But as far as 2017 goes, I hope you guys wrap up the rest of this year and the holiday season on a great note. Those of you who are lucky enough to be off of work or maybe be home and spending time with your family and loved ones, I wish you an amazing time, and I wish you all the best. And thank you so much for your support from the bottom of my heart. Now, technically, this will not be the last time you hear from me until Christmas, because this weekend I do plan on uploading a big, long marathon compilation commentary that's going to run about 8 hours long. I only have a little bit more editing work to do on this thing, probably only an hour or two at the most, and then I can upload it, but the real issue here is the upload time. I think just to render this thing alone, it's going to take about 12 hours, and then another several hours just to get it up to YouTube. So I don't know when that's coming exactly, but look for it this weekend, Saturday or Sunday, or maybe even Monday on Christmas Day, if it takes me that long to finish. But that is all previous released content, nothing new there aside from just a small intro, so I don't really have a chance to wish you guys happy holidays again after this commentary, so this is pretty much it. I've also pretty much figured out what I'm going to do for my end of the year commentary as well. It's looking like episode 475 is going to be my year-end video. That will be coming to you this coming Tuesday night, December 26th, immediately following the Smackdown Live show on the USA Network. I will come up here and I will discuss Monday Night Raw, Smackdown Live, and I will do a big, long, fun Q&A with all of you. And that will serve as my year-end commentary. I'm going to try to even do a few things different on this episode as well as far as the live presentation of this goes. I think I might even include some giveaways, some things like that, since it is the end of the year. I might want to figure out a way to do some of that live. Unfortunately, I don't have anything set up where I can take any live calls yet. I have had people request that I do a show where I can take phone calls and stuff, so that will be coming in the future, but I don't think I'm going to have time to put all of that together by Tuesday. But there will be some giveaways. I will be checking email and looking at Twitter and answering questions from all over the place, maybe even Facebook, and I might even set up a way for you guys to donate to the channel if you would like. So I think episode 475 on Tuesday, December 26th, will be my end-of-year commentary, and it should be a lot of fun. And after we talk about Raw and SmackDown, I will hang out with you guys for a few hours and answer questions, and we can talk about whatever you want. After that, that will probably be my last episode of the year, unless I'm able to throw something at you between the 26th and the 31st. I will. I doubt it. I've got a very busy week of work next week, so I really think Tuesday, because I have the night off, will be it for this year on the GoodMicWork channel. But I'll be back pretty quick after the new year, because I'm pretty sure on January 1st, New Year's Day, I don't have anything planned at night, just a few things during the day. So I will probably be up here for a live stream on Monday. If for any reason I'm not, I'll be up here after SmackDown on Tuesday, January 2nd, and then we will be off and running into the new year and back to my normal regular commentary schedule. So basically, since I'm doing my end of the year commentary on Tuesday and it's going to be a live episode, there will not be any regular podcast episode this week. And I'll make sure to let TVTrax know for that delay as well. But episode 475, I think, is just going to have to be live. And hopefully Tuesday night will be a very, very fun night. So that is what you have to look forward to in the next few days on this channel. And now we can get into what we're going to talk about tonight. Like I said, I'm going to kind of bounce around here. I'm not going to talk too much about Raw, because for those of you who were watching me earlier on in the week, not only did I come up and do a live episode 473 after Clash of Champions on Sunday night, but I also came back up on Monday night as well and did a live stream after Raw. The Clash of Champions live stream was 2.5 hours. The Raw live stream was 3. So in 2 days' time, I was up here for 5.5 hours talking to you guys. So I gave a lot of opinions on Monday Night Raw and all of the smaller angles and everything that we saw on Monday Night Raw. I talked about that in detail. Same goes with Clash of Champions. If you want to hear my Clash of Champions opinions, you can check the cards in the top right-hand corner of the screen, and you'll see my video there, and you can go over and take a look at that. So I did a lot of talking earlier on in the week, which is why I'm not going to spend too much time in this episode getting into all the small details about Monday Night Raw. I'll probably elaborate a little bit more on Smackdown because I did not discuss Smackdown. Why don't we start with Monday Night Raw and talk about the big news? The way the show went off the air was an extremely predictable one, because we had heard the rumblings and we've heard the rumors about a potential Women's Royal Rumble. Makes a lot of sense. They did Hell in the Cell. They did Money in the Bank. You know, Royal Rumble seems like the next logical step. They book a 6-women tag in the main event. Stephanie McMahon shows up in a limousine earlier on in the show. You kind of put the pieces together here and figured out what we were going to see. And sure enough, it ended exactly the way we thought. All of the women start brawling. Everybody comes down. The locker room empties. The women are brawling in the ring. And that's when Stephanie McMahon comes out and she gets in the ring and separates all the women. And this is one part of the segment that I did not like. I'm all for, you know, equality of women, and I'm all for women evolving and the times changing and them getting all the opportunities that men do and all of that. I'm 1,000,000% in favor of that, but it's the way that they go about this. It's the way that Stephanie McMahon makes these announcements. They're annoying or something. I'm sorry. I just don't like Stephanie McMahon. She's the fucking center of attention in this thing, and then she separates all the women who were just trying to rip each other's heads off mere moments before. Now they're all standing there smiling and crying and hugging each other as Stephanie McMahon announces the Women's Royal Rumble at the pay-per-view. That's all she said, is that we're getting a Women's Royal Rumble. We don't know the rules as of yet, I don't believe. If I had to venture a guess, I would probably say it would be 20 to 25 women, maybe in 1-minute intervals. And I still think we're going to get some surprise entrants in this thing too, which I'll talk about. Maybe Ronda Rousey, maybe Trish Stratus, maybe Beth Phoenix. I'm sure we'll see some faces from the past appear. As far as how the whole match is structured, we got a few weeks to figure that out and see what they're going to do here. But as far as the announcement itself, I'm not necessarily against it. I just didn't really like the way the segment came off. Stephanie is just, you know, I just think she really enjoys being the fucking center of attention. She just has that feel to her. She has that look to her. She acts like that. And, you know, as soon as she comes out there, all the ladies are supposed to sit there like, you know, good little animals, you know, and sit and stay and play fetch and all this shit. It's just uncomfortable to watch. There's just something about it I didn't like. But she compliments all the women and how the women's division has evolved in WWE. They've come a long way, and they really have. You know, since 2007, 8, and 9, and years like that, and even years prior, you know, the women's division was virtually non-existent. And then they were all called divas, and they were just eye candy, and they were models, and it was pillow fights, and it was stupid. And now we actually have a credible women's division, and I'm very proud of all of the women on the WWE roster as well. I think it's great. I mean, I cannot believe how WWE has turned things around. I know the women's division is not perfect. There's still plenty of things to complain about, but when you compare it to the way it used to be, this is incredible. The girls that we have there, between Paige and Sasha and Charlotte and Asuka, you know, and just great talent like that. There's a lot of good wrestlers on that women's roster, and we saw more of that in the Mae Young Classic, and there's great women everywhere. WWE, NXT, across the board in that company, there's some excellent female athletes. So the announcement of the Royal Rumble didn't bother me. I think it's fine. It was almost inevitable that they would go in that direction at some point anyway. I hope they don't do an Elimination Chamber. To me, that would be taking it one step too far, but considering everything else they've done, I wouldn't put it past WWE to do an Elimination Women's Chamber. which would be odd. But, you know, we'll see how it all goes. I'm not going to judge it. I'm not going to shit on it or anything like that. This is, it's probably something that's here to stay, because even if this thing is a failure, what does it say about WWE if next year they don't do it again? So now I'm starting to think that this is going to be a regular thing every year, a men's Rumble and a women's Rumble. Now, Royal Rumble is a 4-hour pay-per-view, so I'm not too worried about the women taking up too much time. And like I said, if there's only 20 or maybe 25 women and they come out at 1-minute intervals, then that's not too long. That means the match will probably run about a half an hour, which is not so bad. So I don't really see time being an issue at this pay-per-view. And correct me if I'm wrong, but aren't the rules in a women's battle royal that you just have to be thrown out of the ring? I think that's still probably going to be the same thing for the Royal Rumble, unless I'm missing something. But I'm not even sure if this is going to be an over-the-top rope type of deal. You might just have to be tossed out. That's going to kind of look a little bit weird as well. And I'm really not sure how this is going to come off on TV. I think the girls can pull it off. There's a lot of good talent there, like I said. And plus, we might get some surprises. How cool would it be to see Trish Stratus make an appearance in this thing? How cool would it be to see Beth Phoenix come back? Or maybe, I don't know, Kelly Kelly, Tori Wilson, Stacy Keibler. Some women like that just coming back in just for shits, not to win the thing, but just to make an appearance, you know? And then, of course, the big name floating out there is Ronda Rousey. And that actually makes a lot of sense, because if they want to have Rousey involved in a big-time match at WrestleMania, it's hard to bring her in and just thrust her right into the spotlight and right into a title match. But if she comes in as a surprise at the Royal Rumble and wins it, then that's now an automatic guaranteed title shot for her, which means we can get a Rousey versus Charlotte match, or we can get a Rousey versus Asuka match. What if we get Asuka versus Alexa Bliss at the Royal Rumble for the title, and Asuka wins, and she goes into WrestleMania as champion to face Ronda Rousey? Imagine that. Holy shit. And same goes with Charlotte. They could also do Rousey and Charlotte. That would be fun. You know, like I said, it's too early to shit on it. I wish the segment would have gone better. To me, it was just WWE basking in their own glory and Stephanie standing in between everybody. Just something about that really rubs me the wrong way. Can't really put my finger on it, other than the fact that I just find Stephanie annoying as shit lately. And that says a lot coming from me, because I've always been a supporter of the Stephanie McMahon character. I've never hated her as much as everybody else has, but recently, she is driving me fucking crazy. So I would love to hear what all of you guys have to say about the Women's Royal Rumble in the comments below. How do you think it's going to come off? Who do you think is going to win? What do you think the rules are going to be? And any other opinions you might have about it, please let me know. Might as well talk about Kane versus Brock Lesnar versus Braun Strowman at the Royal Rumble as well. We got that big announcement on Raw. That opened the show. And Brock Lesnar was there. He was present on Monday Night Raw with Paul Heyman. It was Brock and Kane and Strowman all in the ring together with Kurt Angle. Kurt Angle gets a little bit freaked out and runs out of the ring, but not before he quickly announces that at the Royal Rumble, it's going to be a triple threat for the Universal title. We had a feeling that might happen after what we saw last week with the no decision in the number one contenders match, that they'll probably make it a triple threat. As unhappy as I am with this match, at least it protects Strowman, I believe. I mean, if Brock is going to retain here, at least it's not a one-on-one match with Braun where he beats him again. So I'm almost glad that if Brock is going to have to face one of these two guys, if WWE insists on that, then it'd be a triple threat, because Kane can take the pin and Strowman can stay protected and go on to something pretty big at WrestleMania. We were all hoping to get Brock Lesnar versus Finn Balor. To us, that seemed to be the match that makes the most sense because of what we saw between Brock and AJ at Survivor Series. They tore the fucking house down, and AJ Styles took him to the limit. The only thing I can think of that can make sense of all of this in WWE's mind is maybe they're thinking that they want to get Brock away from fighting little guys, since he's probably going to be going into WrestleMania to defend the title against Roman Reigns. Maybe they want to remind everybody that he can beat big giant monsters like Kane and Strowman and Samoa Joe and guys like that, and putting him in the ring a couple of pay-per-views in a row with a little guy might make his match with Roman Reigns seem less big or something. I don't know. It's WWE's own bizarre, fucked up way of thinking. I just can't believe that after the match that AJ and Brock gave us at Survivor Series, WWE would not want to go through with this match with Finn Balor. We know it would be good. I mean, Finn Balor beat AJ Styles at TLC, remember? Finn Balor is still owed a Universal title match. It seems like Brock versus Balor is the match to do at Royal Rumble, but they're going with the triple threat instead. I still think Balor will get title matches in the future. Don't forget, the Universal title after WrestleMania will most likely be back on the Raw brand permanently, and it's not going to be, off TV for months at a time. It's going to be on the show every week, defended a lot, defended at every pay-per-view, so now there's going to be a lot more title matches to go around, and I think Finn Balor will get his opportunity, but I, for one, am very disappointed that we did not get Brock versus Balor at the Royal Rumble, because we know that match would have been fucking great. This is going to be, just like three lumps of shit fighting each other. It's just going to be hard to watch. I don't think Brock versus Braun versus Kane is going to be very good. My big plans for Kane, Kane having a retirement match or a retirement program, seem to be out the window. Not that he can't wrap up business with Strowman after the Royal Rumble. Maybe Brock finds a way to win, and Kane and Braun still have an issue after the Royal Rumble, and they do, I don't know, some sort of a retirement match for Kane or whatever. Now, the go home Monday Night Raw for the Rumble, I believe, is the 25th anniversary Raw, correct? That's going to be the one that's, I think it's from the Garden and from the Manhattan Center. I forgot where the hell this thing is going to be, but I know that's a big time anniversary show. Shawn Michaels and The Undertaker are making appearances there, so I don't know if The Undertaker is going to be in the middle of this Kane, Brock, and Braun feud. I don't know if there's going to be a segment on that Raw where all four of them are standing in the ring together. I don't know. Don't know what the plans are for The Undertaker at that show. If he comes back to, make some sort of an impact on this feud, or maybe he comes back to announce that he's going to be entering the Royal Rumble. Maybe he's coming back to announce that he's being inducted into the Hall of Fame this year at WrestleMania. I don't know what he's going to do, but I have a feeling that The Undertaker might have something to do with this match in some way on that Monday Night Raw. So the whole thing should be pretty interesting. And just a little correction there, I think Raw is actually at the Barclays Center, not the Garden. But I know they're doing something at the Manhattan Center as well, and that should be a really, really fun night. So Taker should have some sort of an influence on everything going into this match, one would only assume. Still don't know what the future holds for Kane or Braun Strowman for that matter, when they're finally going to have their blow-off, and who Braun is going to work with at WrestleMania. And I don't want to see him in the Battle Royal unless he wins it, unless he goes in there and eliminates 19 other guys to win the Andre the Giant Battle Royal. I really don't have any interest in seeing Braun in there. I want to see him have a big match at WrestleMania. So once he's done with Kane, who are they going to move Braun on to face? Unless for some reason he wins the title at the Royal Rumble, which I guess is possible, because not only is the triple threat a good way to protect Braun, it's also a good way to protect Brock. Maybe Braun Strowman finds a way to win, and he's actually WWE champion and goes into WrestleMania. Maybe to face Roman Reigns, because don't forget, Strowman beat Roman Reigns all throughout the summer, so maybe Roman Reigns gets a victory back and beats him in the main event of WrestleMania. I hope not. They should probably just go with Roman and Brock, but, you never know what WWE could change up here. And, I was looking at the pay-per-view schedule now. You guys can correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe Fastlane is a Smackdown brand pay-per-view this year, is it not? Which means that Elimination Chamber is going to be Raw. So I don't know if Brock is booked for the Elimination Chamber. If he's not, what's the point of having the Elimination Chamber? You would think Brock would be defending the title in the Chamber. But if Brock's not booked for the show and he's champion, why the hell do you have a Chamber match? One can only assume that the Chamber is going to determine the number one contender to Brock's title at WrestleMania, which means a SmackDown guy very likely could win the Royal Rumble. And I think a lot of us have been speculating that it could be Shinsuke Nakamura. It's starting to get overly speculated on now, to the point now where I'm worried if Shinsuke wins, it's going to be too predictable. But that's what I'm hoping they go with. I want to see Shinsuke and AJ for the title at WrestleMania. And then as far as Raw goes, assuming Brock keeps the title, Roman Reigns, I guess, would win the Elimination Chamber. Don't know when he's going to drop that Intercontinental title. He might wind up passing that off to Samoa Joe before he gets the number one contender shot. I don't know. I've mentioned him going into WrestleMania as the Intercontinental Champion and facing Brock, champion versus champion, but that doesn't necessarily have to happen. So between now and then, he could very well drop the belt to Joe, and Joe could have a big Intercontinental title match at WrestleMania, and that I would love to see. What if it's Joe and Strowman, or Joe and Balor, perhaps, or Joe and somebody cool, for the Intercontinental belt at WrestleMania. So those could be some likely storyline directions there, because, think about it. With the Elimination Chamber, what's the point of having the Chamber if the belt's not in it, or if there's not it's not for the number one contenders match. If it's not for either one of those, then why have the chamber? So seems like we're starting to get things a little bit spoiled for us, because it seems really likely that SmackDown will be winning the Royal Rumble again, which is great because WWE does not need to have Roman Reigns win that Royal Rumble in Philly again. I mean, they would be asking for trouble. I mean, last time was such a disaster. If WWE did that again, they would be the ultimate trolls. You know, they were on the verge of rioting last time. They might fucking do it this time if Roman Reigns does win that Royal Rumble. So there's really no reason to have Roman win the Rumble or even fucking be in the Rumble, if you ask me. Well, actually, I take that back. Put Roman Reigns in the Rumble. I think you should. That way, when he gets tossed out, the fans will pop. So, you know, provided he doesn't win it, I think this year's Royal Rumble can be a lot of fun. So let's keep our fingers crossed there. But again, just like with the Women's Royal Rumble, I would love to hear all of your opinions, what you think they are going to do in Kane versus Brock versus Braun, where The Undertaker is going to fit in, what they're going to do with Roman Reigns and the Intercontinental title, what's going to happen in Elimination Chamber, who's going to face Brock at WrestleMania. If, in fact, Brock is the champion, does Kane or Braun Strowman have any chance in the world of winning this triple threat? I never even mentioned Kane. To us, Kane is an afterthought. Doesn't even seem logical that he would win the title here, but what if he does? I think there's about a 1 in 1,000 chance that that will happen, but, you know, let's not completely rule it out because, you know, why is Kane involved in these big angles anyway? You know, why is he even in the main event picture right now? I'm telling you, part of me thinks that he's starting to wind his career down. Otherwise, if he didn't have any plans of retiring, WWE would just bring him back as corporate Kane or something. You know, why is he involved with Brock and Strowman of all people when Kane in recent years has kind of been a joke? And I hate to say that about such a legend, but it's true. So Kane just feels out of place here, which means, you know, maybe there's a little upset, maybe there's a swerve in place for us or whatever. Who knows? But right now, still, regardless of Kane and Braun being in that match, I think smart money is on Brock retaining and going into Mania as champion to drop it to most likely Roman Reigns or somebody. I think he's going to drop it at Mania. And right now, Roman Reigns is looking like the likely guy. The other major Raw news, of course, going on is a fellow Shield member of Roman Reigns, and that is Dean Ambrose. He apparently has been working through an elbow injury, and if you watch Dean in the ring lately, he doesn't really look like himself. He almost looks like he's injured, and he's had the elbow brace on for a little while. They ran the angle on Raw where they did a six-man between Dean Ambrose, Seth Rollins, and Jason Jordan. Roman Reigns, for some reason, was not on Monday Night Raw. Still don't know why. A few fans told me it was his daughter's birthday or something, and WWE gave him the night off or something. So whatever. He wasn't on the show. So Dean and Seth teamed up with Jason Jordan to take on Cesaro, Sheamus, and Samoa Joe. And they did an angle where Seth did a suicide dive on the outside of the ring, landing on everybody, and Dean Ambrose injured, quote-unquote, his elbow. They called for the doctor, and Dean Ambrose was taken away. And I was live tweeting Raw during this, and a lot of the fans were like, holy shit, that looked legit. Dean Ambrose is really hurt. The doctor came out, and I couldn't believe it. I was watching the same show, and I'm like, that did not look like it was real at all. That looked like a total work. I mean, just look at Seth's reaction, the way he was looking at Dean, like, oh, what should I do? Should I get back in the ring or what's going on? And the announcers were making too big a deal about the doctors being out there. And I'm like, that is 100% work. And then later on, backstage, Dean is being attended to by doctors. He's attacked by Samoa Joe, who injures his elbow further. So basically, the injury itself is a shoot. That's legit. But the angle on Raw was a total work. And to me, it was never really up for debate. It seemed really obvious to me. I was surprised so many people thought it was real, but the injury itself is real, and Dean Ambrose went down to Alabama and had surgery. So he's going to be out possibly up to 6 months, and that's devastating. Especially to a Shield mark like me, this Shield reunion never even got off the ground. As soon as they got back together, Roman got sick with the mumps and he missed TLC. Now they're finally all back together again. Now you got Dean Ambrose injured and he's going to be on the shelf for 6 months, so we can completely throw out the heel turn idea and the fact that the Shield is going to break up again. Now they're already broken up. The Shield is over. Dean Ambrose is not going to be around for a few months. He's going to miss WrestleMania, most likely. I mean, unless he can really rehab quick, but I doubt it. He's not going to get back in time to have a program and a match with somebody. He can maybe appear at WrestleMania, be somewhere in the backstage area, do a segment or whatever, but as far as competing, I think that's out the window for Dean Ambrose, and that's a shame. I mean, Dean Ambrose has been relatively healthy for the past few years. I don't remember him really ever missing time. But also, in a weird way, I think the fans could use a break from him anyway. I mean, Dean Ambrose was really starting to get a little bit stale. To me, when I watch him in the ring, I'm just sick and tired of that slingshot move that he does. I was looking at TVTrax the other day, and they put a clip up of Solomonster's show, and he said something to the effect of Dean Ambrose kind of going through the motions in the ring, and I'm like, wow, that's exactly what I've been thinking. When you watch Dean, there's just something about him that's just a little bit off. And maybe it's been that injury the whole time. Maybe it's really hindering him or whatever. But, this is something that I've noticed from Dean Ambrose for a year or two now. So I don't think we can totally blame it on the injury. But maybe a little break from Dean Ambrose for the fans might not be a bad thing in the long run. You never want to see anybody get injured. And I wish Dean Ambrose a quick and speedy recovery. And I wish him the best. And when he comes back, I think he's going to make an impact. I think fans are going to be happy to see him back. And sometimes, a break from a wrestler turns out to be one of the best things that ever happens to their careers. Whether it be an injury or, a contract situation that keeps them off of TV for a while. When certain guys come back, they can be a lot bigger deal than before they left. So hopefully that will be the case with Dean Ambrose. Maybe he'll do something where, I'm trying to think of who it was. I want to say it was Chris Benoit when he got his neck surgery. And he took like a year to come back. And I think when he came back, he turned heel the very same night that he returned. Maybe Dean Ambrose comes back, has a big, tearful, joyous reunion and hug with Roman Reigns and Seth Rollins, and then he clotheslines one of them or hits one of them with a chair and turns heel, and Dean Ambrose comes back into the company as a total badass heel. I'd be fine with that. So, hopefully WWE will make the best out of a bad situation here and think of something fun to do for Dean Ambrose when he returns instead of just bringing him back, same old Dean Ambrose, same things he always does. I think Dean Ambrose could use a change upon his return to the main roster. But until then, get well, Dean Ambrose. We all think you're awesome, and I'm sure Renee Young will take very good care of you at home. You're a lucky man. The latest on Matt Hardy and the Woken Hardy character and all that shit was furthered on Monday Night Raw. Now, Bray Wyatt cut a promo again on the Tron. This time he was not interrupted. Later on in the show, Matt Hardy cut a great promo in front of a fishbowl, and he was playing chess, saying that he was putting all of his warriors in position or whatever he was doing, rambling on in the typical broken, woken type of way, and I think was better than the week before. So it was off to a really good start at first. I marked out when he first interrupted Bray's promo and Woken Matt Hardy had arrived. The next week it was not quite as good, and then this week on Raw it got a little bit better. So hopefully these guys will actually be in the ring maybe this week on the Christmas Day Raw. We can get Woken Matt and Bray Wyatt in the ring creating magic together. We'll have to wait and see there. Aside from that, all we saw on Monday Night Raw, we saw the return of the Revival, which was really good. Welcome back to that team. Seems like they've had a couple of speed bumps since appearing or since arriving on the main roster. So really happy to see the Revival back. I hope they stay healthy, and I hope they kick ass because they're a great tag team. And we also saw the debut of Hideo Itami. Now, Itami was supposed to debut on 205 Live, but Finn Balor found himself, I believe, in a handicap match against the Miz Taraj, and then they were kicking his ass, and Hideo Itami randomly came out to make the save. And that was kind of cool to see them together in the ring at the same time, but I think it could have been cooler than it was. I think a lot of fans didn't appreciate how awesome that really was, but Hideo Itami has had horrible luck since coming to the WWE. He's been injured a couple of times in NXT, did not reach the heights that we thought he would in NXT. I mean, he was supposed to be like the crown jewel of NXT, and he was anything but. So now he's over on the main roster, going to be joining 205 Live, and I guess, bringing him on to face, the Miz Taraj in a regular Raw match, it's like, well, I thought he was on the 205 Live roster. What the fuck is the point of that? I guess that was just to give him a little bit of credibility, give him the rub with Finn Balor, let the fans know, who might not know who he is, that this guy actually is a big deal and he's somebody to be taken seriously. He did have his debut match on 205 Live, defeating the returning Colin Delaney, so there's Delaney again. That's kind of cool. We saw him in the squash with the Bludgeon Brothers, I think, a couple of weeks ago, and now he's back jobbing to Hideo Itami on 205 Live. Would be cool if they could find a way to get Colin Delaney back into that roster somehow, even if he's just a jobber, or even if he's just an underneath guy or somebody that we barely, mention or talk about, kind of like James Ellsworth, but maybe a little bit better. I think that would be cool for him to come full circle. I mean, it was like 10 years ago that he was in the WWE, so he stayed wrestling, and now he looks a little bit older. Looks a lot like Daniel Bryan with that beard too, doesn't he? But the more and more I see this guy on TV, the happier I am, because I hope he can kind of get himself, maybe a small job with the WWE, or maybe come in and out, get himself some work and some money and some some TV time. It would be good for him. So glad to see Delaney back. Other than that, there's really not that much else to mention as far as Monday Night Raw goes. We did get Cedric Alexander defeating Drew Gulak to become the number one contender for Enzo's title, and Enzo and Nia Jax seem like they got a thing going on. I talked a lot about that stuff this past Monday in my live stream, so check out that show. Let's move on now to SmackDown Live. This was a fun show, I would say, but it wasn't like, it wasn't a crazy, groundbreaking, news-breaking show, especially for a post-pay-per-view SmackDown. Not a whole lot took place here. I really did like, though, the opening segment between Shane McMahon and Daniel Bryan. That was actually good stuff. You could really feel like there was a genuine tension there. And I like where they're going because they are really taking their time. Here I thought Shane McMahon was going to come out on SmackDown and be so pissed off over what Daniel Bryan did with the fast count at Clash of Champions that he was going to kick Daniel Bryan's ass. But that's not what happened. They both exchanged a few words. It got a little bit heated, especially with Daniel Bryan saying that he's worried. He doesn't want to see Shane McMahon turn into Mr. McMahon, and a few lines like that really got a few oohs and ahs out of the crowd. And a lot of what they were saying just felt, it felt organic. It felt genuine, and I enjoyed the tension and the work between the two. And one can only assume. I mean, where is this going? I mean, is it safe to start assuming that we're going to see Daniel Bryan in the ring again? I'm starting to think that it is. Because the more and more they do here, the more and more you're like, what the fuck? I mean, remember when The Miz was calling out Daniel Bryan? We're like, okay, if this doesn't lead to a match, then what the fuck is the point? And here we are again with Shane McMahon and Daniel Bryan. If they don't end up fighting each other, what the hell are they doing? So I'm starting to think in my head and in my heart that Daniel Bryan is actually going to get back in the ring for the WWE. And I think the likely show for that to happen on is WrestleMania. Unless Daniel Bryan comes in as a surprise entrant in the Royal Rumble, that would be fucking huge. I don't see that happening. I think this issue with Daniel Bryan and Shane McMahon is going to continue to grow and continue to build. Eventually, it's going to lead to a match between the two at Mania. You would have to think that. Still don't know what the latest situation is behind the scenes, if doctors have cleared Daniel Bryan or not. From the best of our knowledge, no WWE doctor has cleared Daniel Bryan to wrestle unless WWE, unless they have, and WWE knows this and they're keeping it under wraps, unless WWE is starting to loosen up on their stance of not letting Daniel Bryan wrestle again, because Daniel Bryan has made it very clear that he wants to get back in the ring, and he fucking will. Whether it's in a WWE ring or not, he will wrestle a match. So WWE doesn't want to let this guy walk. I mean, his contract is going to be up soon. And if they don't let him wrestle, then he's going to leave and go wrestle somewhere else. I don't think they want to lose Daniel Bryan. If WWE is not going to let him wrestle again, then he's out of there. And he's going to Japan. He's going to Ring of Honor. He's going somewhere where he can get in that ring and wrestle. So, the only thing I can think of here is that eventually Shane McMahon and Daniel Bryan are going to get in the ring. And I think it's time for us to really start looking at that as a legit possibility, because up until now, I've only been speculating on it. Oh, wow, I wonder if Daniel Bryan's going to get in the ring. Or I wonder if Shane McMahon's going to end up having a match with Daniel Bryan and maybe somebody wrestles on Daniel Bryan's behalf for control of SmackDown or whatever. But now with WrestleMania on the horizon, you can't tease Daniel Bryan and Shane McMahon facing each other and then somebody takes Daniel Bryan's place. That's not going to work. You got to do the match now. So, the way they're really stretching this out on SmackDown, we really still didn't get any major issue between the two. I mean, they both still said that they respected each other. Shane McMahon told Daniel Bryan that he respects him and that he trusts SmackDown in his hands and tells him to have a good show and a good night and shakes his hand and leaves the ring. So, eventually, Shane McMahon is going to do something to Daniel Bryan. He's going to fire him. He might even get physical with him, beat him up, whatever. But WrestleMania is still a long way away. We've got some time here. So the only thing I can think of is you can't keep having these promos for the next 16 to 18 weeks on TV. You're going to have to do more than that. So eventually this thing, I would think, is going to have to boil over. Maybe the night after the Royal Rumble or the Tuesday after the Royal Rumble. Maybe something happens there between the two. And then Shane McMahon, beats the shit out of Daniel Bryan, hits him with the Van Terminator from across the ring with a chair in the face, puts Daniel Bryan on the shelf for a month, comes back a few weeks later just in time to build up a WrestleMania match, in the month leading up to the big show. It's going to have to go some way like that. Otherwise, just 18 weeks of promos is going to get fucking old. Something eventually is going to have to happen between these two guys. And WWE is just starting to slowly kind of build this up. So I don't want to get too overly excited here, but I got to be honest, I'm getting kind of excited. I think we're actually going to see Daniel Bryan return to the ring. I mean, I was so sad when he retired a couple of years ago. I thought that was just such a sad, unfortunate situation. And if Daniel Bryan can get back in the ring here, I think that would be a dream come true, not only for him, but for everybody that loves him, including myself. So I'm looking forward to the possibility of Daniel Bryan actually getting in the ring. Kind of exciting. Let me know what you guys think about all of that in the comments below. The only other major news on SmackDown was the Dolph Ziggler promo. He, of course, won the United States title in kind of an upset at Clash of the Champions, beating Baron Corbin and Bobby Roode. Comes out on SmackDown to cut a promo, says the typical Dolph Ziggler stuff, how long he's been there, how hard he's worked, all the titles that he's won, he's the best in-ring worker in the world, and all that typical shit that he says, and then he proceeds to lay the belt down in the ring and walk away, and seemingly, quote-unquote, quit WWE. Now, I like the promo by Dolph, because he's always been not only good in the ring, but he's also been pretty good on the mic when he wants to be. And this was a pretty good promo, but the whole thing just didn't make any sense because this is a work. For people who are thinking that Dolph Ziggler actually left WWE, no, he didn't. He's sticking around. This is just part of a bigger storyline with him, obviously. I also don't know if he has necessarily forfeited the title here. I don't know what they're going to do with Dolph. I'm assuming that he's going to leave the WWE for a few weeks. Maybe they crown a new champion, and then maybe shows up in the Royal Rumble or something like that. But, it's one of these situations where I don't want to get too excited because every time we feel like WWE is starting to do something different with Dolph, they don't. So even though the promo initially was kind of like, ooh, that's intriguing, I wonder where they're going with this, it might actually turn out to be shit in the end. But hopefully, Dolph Ziggler can really work this. Maybe he takes some time off of TV. Maybe he shows up ringside at a Ring of Honor show or does something to actually work people, make us think that he's actually gone. I don't know. But whenever and however he comes back, however they write him back in here, I just hope that it's not like a letdown. I don't want to see him just show back up next week and give Bobby Roode the zigzag and then walk away. What's the point of the promo? What's the point of laying the belt down? What's the point of all of that if you just show up another week or two anyway? So Dolph hopefully will be off of TV for the rest of the year, and they'll bring him back in some sort of a major entertaining way. And like I said, I don't know where this leaves the U.S. title. I don't know if they're just going to have a match between Roode and Corbin to determine the new champion, or if they're going to do a tournament, or, if Dolph is going to come back and still be champion after all. I just don't know here. Don't know where this is leading, and at least I don't know. At least that's good. I like not knowing. I like not having an idea where they're going to go in upcoming weeks. So I'm just keeping my fingers crossed that this whole Dolph Ziggler angle doesn't suck. The only other thing I'll mention about SmackDown before we start talking about some of the other news is the really fun match between the New Day and Aiden English and Rusev. This was one of those type of matches, these holiday-themed matches that we see every year that I normally hate. But this one I let slide because it was so extra special fun. Rusev's out there dressed as Santa Claus, and Rusev Day is a lot bigger than Christmas Day, is what Rusev and English have been trying to hammer home with everybody, and they're right. Rusev Day is a lot bigger than Christmas. And I should have wished you guys a happy Rusev Day in the beginning of the commentary instead of happy holidays. My bad, I'm an insensitive prick. But the match was fun. New Day got the victory. They're all dressed up, as Rudolph, as the gingerbread man. I forgot what fucking Aiden English was dressed up as. There was pancakes and whipped cream, of course, and there was all sorts of shenanigans, and it was just fun. It was one of those matches that normally is stupid, but this one I really, really enjoyed. So overall, SmackDown wasn't that great of a show. That's all we really saw that was major. The main event was the six-man match. It was Shinsuke Nakamura, Randy Orton, and AJ Styles taking on Kevin Owens, Sami Zayn, and Jinder Mahal. And the babyfaces got the victory there. Not a crazy good match. I did like AJ Styles' phenomenal forearm that was assisted by Randy Orton. I like the way Randy kind of grabbed a hold of AJ and threw him right in to whoever he hit. I think it was Owens. And, all in all, it was cool to see those guys together and seeing Shinsuke and AJ kind of side by side like that. We're all hoping to get that match at WrestleMania, provided that AJ Styles can hang on to the belt that long. And as far as the Royal Rumble goes, I don't know who's really in line to face AJ for the title next. You might think it would be Randy Orton. That's a very big possibility. I don't think it's going to be John Cena. John Cena, I think, is actually showing up on Raw on Monday. So, I don't know who's next in line for AJ Styles, but we know he'll be defending that title at the Royal Rumble against somebody. I just hope it's not Jinder Mahal. So that is pretty much your Raw and SmackDown in a nutshell there. I do want to mention a couple of other things before I get out of here. There's some other news stories floating around that I feel like I should get into. Some of this stuff I talked about in my live streams, but I figured I would talk a little bit more and elaborate on them in this episode as well. The first one is Vince McMahon and this new company that he is now funding. He's starting up like this new company. This is a brand new business venture for Vince, and it's going to be called Alpha Entertainment. And apparently this is a company that's interested in doing movies and sports and all this stuff, and that's where the XFL rumors started to come in. And this could be a company that is interested in starting some sort of a professional football league to compete with the NFL. And there was even more news that broke just today that Vince McMahon reportedly sold like $100 million worth of his stock to fund this new company, Alpha Entertainment. All of the news outlets picked up on this. It was very mainstream, even saw it on ESPN today. As a matter of fact, I have an ESPN article pulled up right here. This is from ESPN senior writer Darren Rovell. He says Vince McMahon's plan to perhaps try his hand again at professional football came more into focus on Thursday. McMahon is chairman and CEO of World Wrestling Entertainment, which filed details with the U.S. Securities and Exchange Commission about McMahon's sale of 3.34 million shares of WWE, equaling about $100 million. He did so, the filing noted, quote, primarily to fund a separate entity from the company, Alpha Entertainment LLC, which Mr. McMahon established to explore investment opportunities across the sports and entertainment landscapes, including professional football. He then goes on to say the filing comes after WWE confirmed earlier this week that Alpha Entertainment, which was founded in September, was in fact an entity of McMahon's. Alpha filed for 5 trademarks related to the XFL on December 16th, according to records with the U.S. Trademark and Patent Office. And he finishes up by saying the filings seek to trademark the XFL as a professional football league and also cover merchandise related to the league. Previous XFL trademarks were abandoned over a period of time from 2002 to 2005. The company also sought to trademark URFL. Last year, the WWE filed a trademark He Hate Me, the most famous nickname from the XFL. This week, the trademark was published by the U.S. Patent and Trademark Office for opposition, which means anyone who objects has to do so in 30 days. The most obvious potential objector would be Rod Smart, who came up with the nickname and wore it on the back of his jersey. Smart had He Hate Me trademarked until he abandoned in 2011. The original XFL, a joint venture between WWE and NBC, debuted in 2001 and lasted only one season. WWE and NBC lost approximately $35 million each after taxes on the league. And that's a pretty interesting story. I think a lot of people were always of the opinion that the XFL could have succeeded had things been done a little bit differently. There was so much done wrong with the XFL, especially the way they were trying to make it a WWE version of football, and that's just not going to work. You know, I think they needed to leave WWE completely out of it, and I think next time around, they'll be a lot smarter with it. But the bigger story here is Vince McMahon at age, what is he, 73, 72, something like that? He's starting a brand new company in this stage of his life. We're wondering when Vince is going to step down, when he's going to pass the company off to somebody else and retire or pass away. And now he's starting up other companies. And I talked a lot about this in my live stream, and I was almost thinking out loud. And at first I started saying to myself, well, you know, I don't know if Vince wants to divert his attention from WWE, because when they did that during the XFL days, the product suffered. But now it's a completely different story. I mean, Vince paying less attention to the WWE could probably actually translate into a good thing. That's probably exactly what the WWE needs, to not have Vince McMahon there breathing down everybody's neck 24/7 and making everybody's lives miserable and doing all of those Vince McMahon type of things that hurt the product so badly. So maybe this is the beginning. If Vince McMahon is going to be distracted and he's got other things to worry about, this could be a slow way to incorporate Triple H into the new role of Vince McMahon, and Stephanie, of course, because, you know, you don't want Vince McMahon to die and then overnight all of a sudden somebody else is in charge. I mentioned on Monday in my live stream that it would be good to gradually work these guys in. And I know Triple H is already slowly working his way up anyway. He is a big part of what they do, and he has a big hand in everything from TV production to contracts to all sorts of shit. So Triple H already wears a lot of hats as it is, but I think this is, you know, this could be potentially positive. If Vince McMahon has got other things on his plate, other things on his mind, more projects to worry about, that means less time in the WWE and more time for the current people that he has in place there to start taking the reins and start guiding the ship. And I think that can actually be a good thing. So I came to this realization on Monday night as I was talking, and I was kind of thinking out loud. And I'm like, well, shit, come to think about it. Vince McMahon stepping away a little bit from WWE and paying less attention to it would actually be a good thing. I remember back in 2001 when the XFL had those great ratings, and Vince McMahon, a lot of his attention was on the XFL because this looked like it was going to be a huge deal. And a lot of people were saying during the hotline days and on the dirt sheets and shit back then that you could tell that there was, the product was suffering because WWE was spread too thin with the XFL. Now the XFL, or a football league, is something that the company can actually pull off because it's a lot bigger than it was in 2001. And now Vince McMahon has people underneath him that he actually trusts to run the company. Imagine if Vince McMahon would have died in 1998. Who the fuck would have taken over? I mean, Shane and Stephanie probably, but they weren't ready back then. So now Vince McMahon maybe feels comfortable that the company will be in good hands when he does in fact pass away or whatever, because that's the only way Vince is ever going to leave. He's going to have to die, or if he's going to have to get very sick. He's going to have Alzheimer's. He's going to have to get cancer. He's going to have some sort of major shit happen to him that just flat out prevents him from being in charge of WWE. So I think Vince is here until the day he dies, but the fact that his attention is being diverted elsewhere is a positive sign. And I'm hoping that Vince McMahon and this Alpha Entertainment is a huge success. That way, he starts leaving the WWE side of things in the hands of more in touch with reality type of people. That's just my opinion. Again, I would love to hear all of your thoughts on the future of Vince McMahon, his new company, and the prospect of a football league returning and competing with the NFL. Also, a little bit of sad news to report as well. I touched on this, I believe, on Sunday and Monday in my live streams, but Tom Zink reportedly has passed away. He was 59 years old. He died on December 9th, I believe, and word didn't even leak out about his death until several days later. No news as of the recording of this commentary what the cause of death is. Don't really know. I spoke a lot about my memories of Tom Zink in my episode on Monday, and I remember Tom, the first time I saw him was in the WWE. When he was part of the Can-Am Connection with Rick Martel. I loved the Can-Ams. I thought they were a great team. They looked good. And Tom Zink was a lot like Rick Martel. They looked exactly alike. They both had the dark mullet. I think of four guys in the WWE that all looked the same to me. It was Tom Zink, it was Rick Martel, Paul Roma, and Jim Powers. They all had that dark hair, mullet, and amazing physique, like ridiculous physique. And as a matter of fact, I think Tom Zink was like Mr. Minnesota 1981 or some shit. Yeah, he came out of the same town that guys like Rick Rude and Kurt Hennig and the Road Warriors and Barry Darsow and guys like that. There was so many guys that came out of that Robbinsdale, Minnesota area. It was ridiculous, and Tom Zink was one of those guys. And I remember when he left the WWE, he just up and left in the middle of the night. I remember it was a huge deal. The Can-Ams broke up. Rick Martel cut a promo on TV saying, my partner just fucking quit on me. He left me. So you know that he probably wasn't under any sort of contract, and he just left for more money for WCW or NWA at the time, because Tom Zink was a guy that, had a good look, but really, and he was a big guy. I mean, this guy was probably 235, 240 pounds, but in 1987, he was viewed as a tiny guy. So he wasn't going to make it in the WWE in the land of Hogan and Andre the Giant. So he went to the NWA because he could probably be a better star. They probably paid him maybe even a little bit more than what he was making for Vince, and he made the jump, which led to the formation of Strikeforce and Rick Martel and Tito Santana becoming a much better team than Martel and Zink, because Tito is miles ahead of Tom Zink in the ring. But Zink went over to WCW. He was the Z-Man there, tried to create a little bit of a character, won a couple of tag team titles, a TV title, I think, U.S. tag title, and all sorts of weird shit that they had back then. He was even a tag team partner of Brian Pillman and had a nice little run in WCW, although never became the world champion that I thought he might have assumed he was going to become when he first jumped there. But haven't heard much about Tom Zink in recent years. Don't really know what became of him, what type of a guy he was. I know when he left WWE, it was not under good terms. Rick Martel was not happy with him at all. Don't think the WWE was either. But aside from that, never really heard any stories about the guy being a bad person or anything like that. So condolences go out to his family. When I see a lot of these 80s wrestlers, when they pass away, I just think about all of my memories of them. And I actually have a lot more memories than I thought of Tom Zink. The more I got to thinking about him, I was like, wow, yeah, I remember this and this and this. And, remember what kind of what kind of a wrestler that he was. So condolences out to the friends and family of Tom Zink, and rest in peace. And another piece of news that's also kind of sad is what took place, I think it was last weekend, involving Justin Credible at that indie show. I guess if I remember the story correctly, he was actually booked for the show. Is that right? And then he showed up kind of fucked up, and then they didn't let him be on the show, and they told him to go home or whatever. And then in the middle of a match, he shows up and jumps in the ring, demands a microphone. He never got a microphone. I guess he wanted to cut a shoot promo, but he was wasted. The promoter ended up coming out there. He's yelling at him. They finally get him out of there, and he goes home and sobers up and is now owned up to everything. So he did make a video to where he apologized to the promoter and the fans and the wrestlers there, apologized to everybody that saw it. He was embarrassed. I guess he's entering WWE-sponsored Rehab under their dime. I think he has been in contact with DDP as well. So he's trying to turn things around, and the cool thing about Justin is that he's completely owning it. I mean, he's not trying to claim that, it was some medication and I had a bad reaction, or, any of the excuses that you hear a lot in situations like this. He was 100% owning up to it and said, yes, it's me. I was a mess. I guess he had maybe fell off the wagon. He's actually been trying to get better, but had a big day and he slipped and ended up going in the ring and making a fool of himself. But he is trying to clean himself up, but he's got some problems. And it's a shame because Justin Credible, he found good success after leaving WWE as Aldo Montoya when he showed up in ECW and had that new gimmick, even resurfaced in WWE after that, as that tag team with X-Pac and shit. I mean, he is kind of an honorary Click member as well. I mean, there is really a sixth Click member, and it was PJ. He's friends with all those guys, so hopefully Sean Waltman or Scott Hall or somebody has reached out to him, and Justin Credible gets the help he needs. Very disappointing when you see stuff like this, but one positive thing I'm taking away from this is the way Justin Credible handled it after the fact, owned up to it, apologized, knows that he fucked up, and he's going to try his best to never do that again. So let's hope that Justin Credible gets the help that he needs and lives a happier life for it. So best of luck to you, Justin Credible. We're all pulling for you. So that is pretty much it for me. I'm going to get out of here. I just, once again, want to say a couple of things. Number one, wish you guys, again, a very safe and happy holiday. And I also want to send out a special thank you to TVTrax. He started featuring my videos on his YouTube channel this past January. So it's been a full year of me being featured on TVTrax, and he's uploaded in the neighborhood of 500 videos of my content alone just in this year. And that's incredible dedication. It's been awesome being featured over there with Don Tony and Kevin Castle and Solid Monster. It's earned me a lot of new subscribers. A lot of you discover my channel because of the clips that you see on TVTrax. So I just want to send a special thank you out to him and to everybody that is a supporter and a watcher of the TVTrax YouTube channel. If you have not, for any reason, subscribed to that channel, please do. It's amazing. You got all sorts of great podcast clips over there. I've got a link right there in the description down below, and I'll probably throw one up in the cards as well. So thank you again for an awesome year, Trax, and thank you for featuring my content, and hopefully 2018 can be just as successful as 2017. So for the rest of you, like I said, thanks again for watching this year. It's been great. Keep a lookout for the big marathon compilation video that I'll be uploading this weekend, and then I'll be up here this Tuesday, December 26th, for my final commentary of the year, a live show, episode 475. We'll talk about Raw, we'll talk about Smackdown, and I'll do a big fun Q&A, maybe some giveaways, and maybe some other fun stuff as well. So stay tuned for that. Thanks again, guys. I'll talk to you very soon. Have a great rest of your week, and I'll catch you later. Until next time, peace.